So I just was thinking about the general statement of all of this and how Over the Edge is, to myself, a mechanism of describing and defining and clarifying this forward idea of life, of energy, of humanity, of the world. And so I just was thinking that it might be cool to say something just really simple on that for an intro, about how the other idea, the world we've been taught is top down, is punitive, is schooling and training, and is, compliance and behavior and reining yourself in. And it's, this feeling we all know so well of this just pressing down on us, the pressing against ourselves, training yourself to be a better human and shit like that we say all the time, working on our lives, just trying to get there.
Why should you cling to some fading dream that used to be? That's the Frank Sinatra. You can't ask people to be a part of what you can't explain.
What I'm going to explain to you is it's voice of the group, communicates through leaders of 8 different areas that I've made up, defined of what we do. Those 8 areas combine into 4 teams. Those teams advise our new Over the Edge World staff, of which Demony Slusher is in charge of this communication. Jerry Wolf is in charge of that staff and implementation. And then we've got Mike Curtin running our web and newly in our operations, which is beautiful. Mike Ferrantino writing words. Sam doing art. We've got Melanie in the office. We have availability probably of a trails person as we develop this entity. And we are excitedly going forward and implementing these beautiful ideas of this beautiful group.
Yeah, so the picture of this is, if we're going to pull inspiration, then first thing I did is no area could be unaddressed, right? So you'll see these 8 areas that I came up with are just really trying to encompass everything we do. On this end, anything new, so that pretty opens up a lot of opportunities. We do trail building. I just was in Lithuania working with the world poker champion, Tony G, designing a mountain bike trail. Hopefully I'll go back there in March and we get to build it. You guys could go with me. That's what Over the Edge builds trails. We have a cool brand. We do events. We have a website. We do advertising. We have operations. And we have group investments. The house we're doing a staff retreat at in Arizona this year, I want to buy it. We do all this stuff. We're not just a bike shop. That's what's cool about us. So the idea of this is that it's a carburetor. Don't technically judge my carburetor. But the idea is that we have ideas, thoughts, input from the group, right? We want to hear from everybody. And I was just looking at the thought that seeing something, like somebody that works in a shop may see an opportunity or see something that we can do. The challenge is in saying. How this thing works, it's the group of us, this is all of us up here, are feeding a hopper, if you will, of ideas. These, as I would call them, are potential awesomes. And it could be any number of ideas. We want a wide open, no answers. There's not a rejected ideas. I don't even mind if you say, we want a trail in China, okay? So the idea, something key to what Troy will be bringing all this is the idea of tangible forward. So a trail in China, maybe that's not, okay, we're not saying no to that idea. There's also an idea right now that we have a trails entity, that we develop a trails entity, right? So a trail in China, to go forward, has to precursor in this idea here, right? So then these feed into this. If you've ever been a farmer, I see it as a seed spreader. It's a big rotational wheel of spreading these seeds, and it spreads these seeds around to these 8 areas, right? So trail in China may come out where it may also have a store in China. So then that kind of goes, these go into here, right? And the establishment of a trail entity is an action item of this group right now. So that idea isn't, no, we can't have a store in China. It's that to have a store in China, we need to do this first. So as these 8 areas go around this circle, right? There's our events, and there's our web, and there's our advertising, and there's our operations, and there's our group investments, right? Like, so maybe we want to buy the property in China when we get to that point. So this hopper of ideas then goes around, and what's key is as these ideas funnel into this hopper, there will be some sorting going on right here, because one of our rules is we can't put into our teams non-tangible forwards. All forwards are tangible forwards. If you can't do them now, that's not a forward. So keep that in mind in all your life. You want to learn to ride gnarly technical stuff, go fuck around on your curb in front of your house for hours. That's where you start. All forwards are a tangible forward. I saw this analogy as a carburetor is pulling things in, and it's using this gathering, and it chokes them down and refines them kind of here, which is our first phase of interpreting and sorting these ideas into our teams, and thus we constrict it. And then a carburetor, as it then releases, is when it puts fuel in it and combusts and makes it into an action, which is what we're really trying to do. So we have, this hopper of ideas, and then we have this process of, I've been describing it as falling like a feather, because they need to be combined and sorted and sifted and kind of put together in. I said yesterday that if somebody says we need over-the-edge branded condoms, and it's like, okay, what they're really saying is we need quirky over-the-edge ideas, quirky over-the-edge branded products, right? So a feather, when it falls, when it meets resistance of the airflow, it just falls back and forth. Like, it doesn't press against, it just works its way through. And that's how this hopper of ideas are. And phase 1 in this model is this sorting of ideas, so that then we can put them into the teams, which is committees of us that can then refine these ideas, and we can combust them. And what's cool about an engine in a carburetor is that the airflow is drawn from, whoa, that doesn't work, from the inspiration. You'll never see somebody write worse upside down. That's the truth, though, is the airflow of this is the inspiration. As we all see these things happen, it draws its own air. People are going to be increasingly excited about being a part of this hopper process because they see the outcome of these things. For example, this staff retreat this year, which will be the best ever because we have a group planning it and not just one person planning it. This is an advisory committee to the Over the Edge World Group, and the World Group is my company. It used to be just Troy. We know that worked certain ways for a certain amount of years. Now we actually have the mechanism to go forward, and the key idea in this flow is that everybody knows who to talk to. So your ideas have a place to go. They have a leader from the group who then knows who to talk to about, we should bring this to the team. And then when the team gets these things in their 3 action items, refines them, like this committee said, let's do a staff retreat, let's do it this way, let's do it these days, let's do it in Phoenix instead of Sedona, let's blah, blah, blah. So we brought that down to, Jay led that, handed it off to Jerry and I, and then we booked houses and moved forward in making that happen. In the world we live in, we're taught it works this other way. Now I need my gaffer tape, which won't tear paper or paint. And so this is the way the world tells it, is that there's a boss, and then the boss tells the staff what to do, and that they begrudgingly go do this shit. And it's like, that's not the over the edge model. We are going the opposite way. It's everything I've ever talked about. This is positive energy. This is negative energy. You are not a victim. You're a part of something beautiful. And so it goes the other way. The boss is only asking that you talk, and that there's a mechanism here to hear you, and a mechanism to take those ideas, refine them is the word I use here, to refine them, to move them forward. At this point, when the staff gets them, they're going to define them with the teams. We cannot adopt a forward that is not a tangible forward. It's a tangible forward now, or it doesn't make it through this process. And at that point, we can start seeing these beautiful ideas get all the way to China. And that's the idea. What's really cool about us is that all of us are us. So the voice of us is all in this spreadsheet. You'll see here the early incarnation of these ideas that I've collected off of here and from owners' meetings and from input of the group. So these are all, we want everybody's thoughts in here. Like whatever your input is to what we could do beautifully. And then as that hopper of ideas refines, I made a little hot list down here, which you'll notice kind of becomes the action items of these teams. And so as we go into this mechanism, I changed it and made it a little easier. Hopper of ideas, these 8 categories, gets refined by a leader of that area and a staff contact from Over the Edge World Group, which is the company responsible for working for the group. So the ideas come in, we've got to sort them like a feather. Look at them like, what does this mean? Where does it fit? What committee team does it go into? Then they go into these teams that have these 3 things. And then a key thing, the teams we're not encumbering the teams, which are made up of all different stores and all different members of our group. We want cross collaboration. And so these teams, when they have these 3 things, they're going to refine these ideas into actual tangible awesomes for the group and then hand them off to the Over the Edge World staff, which is the people in my company that are in charge of implementing these ideas for the benefit of the group. Another really beautiful thing about this is each of these teams shares with each other. So the forward new ideas, we're responsible for staff and staff experience and the vibe of our staff people in us. It's only cool to walk in a store because we're excited to be working there. So staff retreat combines with events because it's an event, and so these teams collaborate on that. Marketing, operations collaborated on the budget for the next year's branding, advertising, and they collaborated with brand, events, and vibe on theme. So there's a lot of collaboration. It's really to pull out communication with the carburetor idea, to draw ideas, and then to actually combust them and make them actually happen. That's the hopper idea. The important thing in it is to see that these 8 areas of influence have been, my goal was to try to encompass everything, and you can see the hopper of ideas has been a part of these plans from their scribblings early on. And it all comes down to the fact that we want to pull that airflow through. We want to pull people's ideas out. We want to inspire people to be a part of this. The strength of Over the Edge is our group of people. And the strength of this model is the aspiration of their inspiration and being able to hear these things. And every key to flow. Carburetors don't work if they get clogged up or if they can't flow. So the key is, and I'll explain that in a variety of other ways, is that everybody knows who to talk to and everybody knows where this thing goes next, so that it doesn't clog up, it doesn't bog down, it doesn't hit the rev limiter, make that awful noise. Has flow, which will cycle inspiration and it becomes its own engine. It's beautiful. It is the goal of a win-win-win. That's Over the Edge. It's the goal of this whole thing is that it's a benefit to you, to the owners, to the land, to the sport, to the people that walk in the front door, to all of us.
Don't hide that under a rock. Jesus was right. Don't hide your shit under a bushel. Fucking get out. Speak your fucking voice. Bring it. This is a place. This is my message to all of Over the Edge. This is your place. Bring it. I got your back.